Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Talk UX. This is our third day. This is the third panel that we are doing at Talk UX. So, welcome, everyone. This is the annual international conference led by Ladies That UX. Ladies That UX is a global organization that has created an inspiring and inspirational global community for women who work with design and technology, leading a global movement spanning more than 75 cities around the world. All TalkWax presentations are being recorded on our YouTube channel, so you can watch and rewatch and also share with people who might be interested in the topic. My name is Mariana Zaki. I'm a EMEA director at Ladies That UX, and I'm one of the chapter leads of Ladies That UX Milan. For accessibility purposes, I'm going to describe myself. I'm an Asian woman with short black hair. I'm wearing a dark blue dress with a black jacket with a yellow necklace. I'm using headphones and I am in Milan right now using this amazing filter that everyone thinks it's my home. So, introducing this panel. This panel today is to talk about different perspectives of UX designers, also UX researchers in different cities in Europe, and how the scenario of working with UX looks like. And also all of the participants of this panel today, they are also chapter leaders of Ladies That UX in Europe. So it's going to be a very nice conversation, and I'm very curious to know their point of views. And so we can also learn more about what they think and how it is the scenario in their cities or their country where they are right now. So I'm going to start introducing Zsófia, Sabrina, Emanuela, and Luana. Welcome, everyone. So to start, I would like to ask you to introduce yourselves. Your name, where are you from, where are you talking from?
Okay, so I guess I popped up first, so I can start. Hi, everyone. My name is Zsófia Czémán. I'm from Hungary, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Budapest chapter. Right now, I am actually sitting in Vienna. I just moved here recently, and I'm working for a company called GeoGebra as a UX designer and researcher. This is an education platform that helps teachers to teach math and sciences for high schoolers. And we founded the chapter in Budapest four years ago, actually, right now. Oh, and I have to describe myself, sorry. So I'm wearing a dark green pullover. I'm a Hungarian woman with long brown hair and blue eyes. In my background, I have a plant and a balcony door.
I guess I can go. Hi, everyone. I'm Sabrina, and I'm the chapter leader of Ladies at UX Amsterdam. I'm half Argentinian, half Spanish, but I moved to Amsterdam 3 years ago, more or less. And right now I'm working as a UX designer at a company called Coolblue, which is a famous e-commerce in the Netherlands, and also is present in Germany and in Belgium. And for accessibility purposes, I have long brown hair, brown eyes, also like a blue dark pullover, and I'm sitting in my living room.
Okay, I guess it's me, the next one. Hi everyone, my name is Luana. For accessibility purpose, I'm going to describe myself. I have brown hair, brown eyes, pale skin, and I'm talking from my attic, and I have Frida Kahlo on the back. I'm a Brazilian expat living in Dublin for the last 10 years. I'm a digital product designer, and I work with small business. And at the moment, actually, I'm changing jobs. So it's, I can't say the company name, but all my experience in product design is with fintech. So basically, that's my field. And yes, that's me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emanuela. I'm an Italian living in Berlin since 6 years, and I've been part of Ladies UX Berlin since 4 years, which is the same amount of time that I've been a UX designer for Mozilla Firefox, the browser. I'm going to describe myself for accessibility purpose. I have medium long, dark brown hair. I'm wearing a pretty bright red lipstick, because why not? And a white sweater. I'm sitting in my studio room, which is also at the last floor, so it looks a bit like Luana attic, but without Frida Kahlo picture in the background.
Nice, thanks everyone. So the first question, for how long have you been involved with Ladies at UX, and how did you start the chapters you're leading now?
I can go. As I said before, like I've been started Ladies at UX 1 month before I was starting at Mozilla. So it was September 2016. And that is the date of our first meetup. Is also when we usually celebrate our Ladies at UX Berlin birthday meetup as well, except for this year. The reason why I started is because I was living in Berlin since 2 years. And I was going to a lot of meetups, but somehow I was missing something that was like really specific to UX, and something that was like small enough and comfortable enough. And funny enough, more or less in the same 2 or 3 days, there was a Talk UX happening at the time. I think it was the one in Manchester, and me and the other co-founder sent basically in the same day the email to Ladies at UX asking for start the Berlin chapter, and they just told us like, well, just talk to each other. Doing a meetup like that takes a lot. That actually build a community takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And since then, it's been like me and Steffi. We had several co-organizers, because Berlin is a city where sometimes you stay long, sometimes you stay a bit shorter. So we have Annalena, Caroline, and Zivil, who are like move out of Berlin, and they left, of course, the chair. But now with Steffi and I, there are Lucy and Karen to bring Ladies at UX Berlin.
I guess I can go next. I started being involved in Ladies at UX Amsterdam around 3 years ago, very soon, right after moving to Amsterdam, because, well, of course, I wanted to meet new people in the city, and especially people in UX, to build a network around the field and learn more from others. And I started joining a lot of meetups, but at Ladies at UX, I always felt very comfortable, like a very cozy atmosphere that you've always felt safe enough to talk and express your opinions. And I wanted to start something like a side project to contribute to the community as well. So then I reached out to the organizers at that time, and I started collaborating with them. Jenny Shen is the founder of the chapter. The chapter actually started around 2015, and some of you might know Jenny, of course. And then right after, Nadia, Roxanne, and Vaiva joined her as main co-organizers, but they left the organization to do other projects. And right now it's myself, together with other 3 organizers, Esesu, Daria, and Agatha, who are mainly organizing our monthly meetups.
Okay, so my stories, I guess all the stories are a little bit similar, but we also started 4 years ago. And the general purpose was just to have a supportive, smaller community that is not like so big. So the Budapest official UX meetup was actually like usually a really large crowd. It was less for conversations or little workshops. And actually, there was one event that kind of triggered to take action. I remember it very clearly because, so especially 4 years ago, the UX community was not big in Budapest, and some of the senior professionals started a closed meetup that was invitation only for people who work in the field for more than 5 years at least, or something like this. And I went there for the first meetup, and it was like 25 people, and it was only me and a friend who was women. Everybody else was men. And it was so shocking, not because those people are not great in their field. It's just, we went out with a friend and we said, we have to do something about this. This is not inclusive, and this is not how it should be. And that's when we also realized it would be really great to get the support from Ladies.ux, and it just comes together. So we started this, and it turned out great.
Well, a little bit of my story is that I started the chapter, actually, me and someone else, and then that was 4 years ago almost. But the whole thing that brought me to Ladies.ux is that I had a mentor at the time, and she actually was working for Automatic, and during the mentorship, I was changing career, so I was moving to UX. And one of the things that she mentioned was to bring something to Dublin that there isn't yet. So, and that case was Ladies.ux. So I brought Ladies.ux to Dublin. I found a chapter with someone else. And in the same time, I was doing a bachelor in science and changing career. So it was very overwhelming, but it was really, looking back in time, I couldn't have done better. And I really thankful for having that mentor at the time, not only bringing Ladies.ux, but getting involved with Girls in Tech as well. So that was, that's a bit of my story. Yeah.
Amazing. Now that you mentioned that you had a mentor in your career path, Luana, I would like to know for the other girls as well, what are the programs you are doing for Ladies.ux? Because I know that Luana, also Sabrina, also Zsófia, they have been doing also mentorship, no? I would like to know more about this.
Okay, I can just jump in and just continue. So we decided to do our first mentorship this year. It was actually just timed during the lockdown here in Ireland, the first lockdown, because we're in the second lockdown now. And so our target was basically people that were changing career and people that just graduated, because there's a lack of mentors, and for those kind of people, especially when they're just starting, and they don't know basically where to go. They don't have role models, and we would during our events get questioned about doing such type of event. So we decided to focus on that persona, two personas who just graduated and who was transitioning. And we had 17 mentors, like from companies from Udemy, Zendesk, really people that were compromised and giving their time with just 1 hour per month. But actually, many people had way more than 1 hour per month. And we had open for application, and we had overall like numbers of applications that we couldn't accommodate everybody. But end up that we actually reached out to our mentors and said, hey, we had over 100 people applying, and we have only 17 mentors. Could you accommodate more than one mentee? And I think 90% said yes. So that was we had like our opening about the like event for the mentorship. We had over 100 people in the Zoom channel. And then in the closing event, we have the best cases, people telling us that they couldn't have completed their masters if they didn't have the mentors, and people also telling us that they got jobs through during the mentorship, and that happened through the pandemic. So, and for me, from the perspective that when I changed career, that was 3 years ago, and I had the chance to have a mentor, I knew that would have a huge impact in the career, you know. So that's our experience, is that we want to do that next year. That was very successful for us. And next year, maybe we're going to focus on people that are in more senior roles, because we're already focusing in 2 types of personas, and now we want to accommodate and be diverse, you know. So yes, that was our experience.
I think I can go next. At Ladies at UX Amsterdam, we started our mentorship program 3 years ago. So this year was the 3rd edition. And actually we started because we noticed in our community like a need for a mentorship program, because of course we have a lot of juniors and people that want to transition. And for them it's really hard to find a mentor, especially because a lot of mentorship programs are really expensive. So then because of this, we decided to launch it as a pilot 3 years ago. And basically what we did is to ask people in which level they are, if they are juniors, mediors, or seniors, and what do they want to learn. And we asked the same for the mentors. So it was public. Anyone could participate as a mentor and also as a mentee. And then we matched them based on their preferences and the level that they were at. And actually it was a really good result. A lot of people joined, but every year more people join. So I think this year, 150 people joined the mentorship program. And we also have like a lot of successful stories that people that became friends after the mentorship, so they continue talking to each other. Also people that found jobs as well. Our mentorship program is 4 months, and usually we try to organize meetups or workshops to encourage the networking and learning from others. This year with the lockdown, of course, was very challenging. We couldn't do any meetup in person. Everything was remotely. And also, of course, the mentor-mentee relationship. So it was very difficult, but in the end, we managed to get till the end. And this year, we also have a lot of very happy people, and people that also found a job during this difficult year, which I think is quite surprising.
So for us, I think it was a little bit smaller scale than what you guys described, because we just started with a group of 6 or 7 mentors. And anyway, I don't know if we could have found more people in the community. But we did a kind of intense mentorship, so like once a week or once in every 2 weeks for 4 months. And our persona was also, I think, more similar to Sabrina. So it was really focusing on junior designers, so someone who has a little bit of experience already, because we saw this because the UX profession is so at the beginning in Budapest that many times, even if you're a junior, you are put in a company alone to kind of start and establish the UX culture. And it's just so hard that there is no one else to learn from. So most of our mentees were in a situation or something like this. So they were like really grateful to go to someone and discuss what's going on at work, and I don't know if they had a problem, or learning about new methods, introducing things, and just spread the UX culture at the company. So that worked really great. I think it would be amazing to extend it to different personas, like what Luana said, like even university or before, but we have to see if we have the capacity for that.
So with the Berlin chapter, we don't have a formal mentorship program, but we do have specific meetups where we do, for instance, portfolio reviews, where we go into specific doubt or question. Like we did a lot of Ask Me Anything session with people that are more senior into specific different fields in UX. And we know that from those connections, like people basically asked, like maybe the speaker to be a mentor. And we know that people are being like those kind of relationship are being like created without having a more formal program. So I think like that makes me really happy. And I think that what I heard here is like kind of similar to our experience, where having a community like Ladies That UX is really important for people that are switching career or really junior, because most of the time they don't know where to go and look, and having a safe place where they can just ask questions, that helps a lot. Like being able to ask even whatever question you have in mind, that kind of change everything. So I would really love to learn more about your mentorship program, by the way, after the panel, so we can see if we can replicate in Berlin as well.
Yes, also me, I'm very curious to know more. So the next question, I would like to know, how is the design sector organized in your company? And do you think this is a reality for other companies in your city or in your country?
I can tell from, wow, now I'm changing jobs. And so I would tell from my last experience. So I joined a team with 5 designers and all females. That was the first time ever that this happened in my career. And the design team was brand new. We had to sell ourselves to the company for the stakeholders, especially C-level, all the time, especially explaining when his search is enough. So that was our environment, and basically every day. And we had a really comprehensive product. And but our manager, she gave us a lot of autonomy to do his search, and she would back up our team all the time. And we work in the same the same floor, that the whole engineer team was right beside us. That would help a lot, because we even, and design reviews and everything, sometimes engineer would join us. So that would help us to convince stakeholders as well, especially when we're changing the infrastructure and enter microservice, and we had to do a presentation and talk to C-level executives, and we had someone from engineer beside us. And from my experience, it's something that in my company, it didn't come from the CEO, it was something brand new. They're adapting to agile methodology, and then the design studio was brand new. And the learning process when you join a company that is in that stage it's very you have to adapt very fast. And yes, so that was the environment. But you learn a lot, like the type of research that we would do, and flight observations, because it was a fintech, but it was for the air industry. So it was the payment process when you fly, and all the type of research, and different type of stakeholders. There are different types of air companies, and sometimes we do simple activities like card sorting. Other times we had to do stakeholders interviews. And there is the product was so diverse from the logistic point of view. So yes, I would say it was a company that it wasn't a startup, but it had to rebuild the product, and it was in that process. There was a startup was in the moment, but it wasn't a brand new company. So for me, the learning process in that kind of company is very intense, and overwhelming. But in the same time, I think it was, like, in terms of experience, what I got from that has a great value to me. So it was something really good. And at the end. So yes, and if I had to work in that type of company, like a startup company, that was the way that I used to work. Between like a standard company like IBM or that kind of company, I would still work for a company that acts like a startup, because I think you learn way more. So that's my opinion. So yeah.
So if you're asking about the organization of design, I think I'm not a good example right now because I am a one-person team. I just started a new job in July, and basically I'm responsible for covering the entire design process right now, which I actually really love, but a team usually doesn't work like that. So the previous experiences, at least in Budapest, it's almost all the time divided between research and design, meaning the researcher would do the discovery part and deliver the insights, and then the designer takes over and kind of creates the concepts, also prototypes, that goes back to research and then finalizes the product. And most of the job ads are actually also following this pattern in Budapest. So people usually specialize in research or design only. There are just some companies who have some sort of overlap, or if you work for a startup like what Luana described, then you can really touch on all these different fields.
At Coolblue, yeah, we have like what Zsófia mentioned, we have researchers and designers. Basically, we have a UX designer per team, and a team is responsible for a specific part of the website. So, for example, we have the ordering team, who is responsible for the whole checkout process. And the ordering team has a UX designer and also a researcher in that case. And so then you are responsible mainly for the design part, the whole solution space until the visual design. But not all the teams have a researcher. So then, for example, in internal teams for back office applications, it's only the UX designer. And in those cases, the designer gets to do research with the internal users who are actually your colleagues, which is my case right now, and also the design of the application itself. And I think in Amsterdam, at least, it's becoming way more than that companies are hiring more specialists, so having a researcher and designer, rather than having one person that does everything, because it's actually quite difficult, because it's a lot of work. So sometimes balancing research with design, it's very complicated. Years ago, it was not that common. I think years ago, most companies only have one person responsible for everything. But I think the scenario is changing a little bit more towards a specialist.
Yeah, I saw something similar happening in Berlin too. Just for context, I think that I am one of the few people in the UX field that, not UX field in Berlin, not in the whole world, of course, that because I'm working for an international company, I'm like, I live in a sort of parallel world, right? Where I don't know, it's not that I do American holidays, but like American holidays affect, for instance, my workload, right? And the way also that the company structure affect my day. So let's talk about that for a second. The Mozilla has two different organizations inside. One is the Firefox org, and then we have another organization, and both organizations has their own user experience team. The Firefox experience team and the people experience team in the other org, which is cover all the other products and projects that Mozilla does that are not Firefox. So under the Firefox UX team, we have different disciplines. We have interaction design, we have content design, user research, both qualitative and quantitative. And that was personally like really exciting because before in Berlin, I worked for a company builder, actually in the fintech sector. And I had basically to bootstrap one startup after another. So I was wearing all the hats except probably the one of content design, because not knowing the language was kind of complicated there. But I was definitely making recommendation. And that's, I think, is still the situation sometimes. It really depends on the size of the company. There are a lot of startups in Berlin, so that require you to somehow cover the whole spectrum, or at least to have that knowledge to be able to move in the kind of larger UX field. But somehow I see this happening with our people in the community as well. The more you grow, you more ended up being and working in medium or... Non mi sembra di aver capito bene. Thank you, Siri. In medium or large organization where you can be more specific. Like definitely a big company in Berlin that probably most of you in Europe heard about in Zalando. And also in Zalando, people have different job. They actually they're super precise. Like for us, if you're a product designer, you do both like UX and UI, while in Zalando people are like really precise. Like if you are a UI designer, you are a UI designer, right? You're not a UX designer. And some large company tend to, in Berlin at least, tend to somehow follow that. And then of course there is all the different things which are the agency and consultancy that are large international company that are based in Berlin because they want the German market. So in that sense, I think that's somehow a really completely different kind of designer. We discuss a lot during the meetup, like the Lazy UX meetup, to understand what are the skill set that maybe fit better to work in this sort of agency and consultancy style, and more to work into product. So yeah.
I really like that you gave us a perspective on different sectors, Emanuela, because here also in Italy, there is a huge difference between like agency, design studio, consultancy, and also product. So very nice. What would you guys say about the female participation in the job market in your city or country?
If it's okay with the group, I'm going to start. I think that Germany is definitely, especially in the startup world, is still really led by male. And sometimes it can be annoying to be the only woman in the room, or even just being someone who is not a German dude who went to the right university and somehow speak English with a perfect accent. And I'm like, how do you speak English with that accent? Like, how hard are you trying to do that, right? So sometimes it can be really intimidating. And I think that in certain area in Germany, there is a bit of adversity to let more people in, not from the right clubs. In Berlin, is kind of changing. Like a lot of people that work in our industry in Berlin are coming from different countries, like myself, and so they're kind of bringing on this more like diverse. I think there is still room, though. There is definitely still room for improvement, and that's what I observe in the meetup as well. Like you often ended up having, that person who doesn't realize what is doing and why it's important that you get that position. There is still a lot of emotional labor that is being, picked on women and say, like, I don't know, because you're the woman, you're the one to organize the team event. I feel really lucky because working for a more larger and international company, those things are discussed a lot, and we try to avoid, but somehow still happens. It's sad, but sometimes you can see happening, but not as often as it was happening in my previous job here in Berlin, or the position that the member of my community are having.
In Amsterdam, yeah, I think it's also changing. For example, I also feel lucky because I work in a big company. And for example, last year I have a team lead who was a woman. And I also know a couple of other women that are in leadership positions in Amsterdam. But I will say that in the majority of companies, yeah, men are the ones who get the leadership position as well. But somehow I think it's changing. At least the last few years, I see more and more women getting these positions. So I think the whole industry maybe is changing their mindset, which I think is really positive. But of course, there are still some improvements to be made, and sometimes you can find yourself in uncomfortable positions, of course.
Well, in Dublin, I think as well, it's changing. I take from my last job, my manager, she was a female, and I was working in a team of 5 females. So that was the first time that it happened. My previous company, I was the only female in the team. And I can see that there is a trend on that. I think many companies are doing conscious bias training, and not only that, but you can see that you can clearly see more females being design managers as well. We can tell that from the mentorship that we did. We had quite a few design managers and senior designers being our mentors. So I can see a trend on that field, and I think that most companies nowadays, very few would have a team that is only made of males. That would be like it. I think it happened in the last 3 to 4 years that it changed, and the radio, I think, is 50-50. That's my view, and I can see that. Yeah.
I think in Budapest it's still not a problem to have an only men team, unfortunately. Some companies are trying to balance this, so there is definitely a trend, as you guys described. And, you know, it's interesting because so the people who are actually actively UX professionals, there are still definitely more men. But I've been teaching a lot also in several boot camps, because that's the only way how you can learn UX in Budapest right now. There is no university degree. And there it's actually becoming 50-50. The people who are trying to approach UX, who want to become UXers. And it's really interesting because there are many women I meet with different backgrounds who want to switch their careers to become UXers. It's very inspiring. It's, at least for me, not very much meeting young people who want to be UXers from the beginning of their career. That's definitely not so often happening. But people who are, I don't know, product managers or maybe developers, maybe some with research backgrounds, so coming from academia, that's also something, but it's more rare because these bootcamps are really expensive. But yeah, women are trying to change to UX, and it's really great to see.
Yes.
You're on mute.
I think Luana is trying.
Now, yeah,
Yes.
one thing that I want to say is that I was talking about user experience field, because in engineering it's completely different. It's not 50-50 at all. It's way more male, and that affects us designers because we're cross-functional and we have to work with engineers, and engineers were like 80-90% males. So it has the gender ratio. It has to happen in a larger sphere. It is not only in our field to be balanced and diverse. Yeah.
Yes, it's true. But I think, I don't know, my perception is also that the more the country is diverse, the more we have like women in their leadership roles. I don't know, maybe it's my impression. Like here in Italy, if I can also participate on the panel, I'm very lucky because I work with amazing women in my team. Maybe in my team we are more women than men, like 60%, 55% compared to men. But the leadership roles, they are not occupied by women. Like the people that the person, like the leaders that they are up there, they are not women. So it's very nice to see that you guys are
Yeah,
having.
I definitely feel really lucky that now I have a female manager, a female UX director. There is a principal of user research who is also like a woman. And in January, we were like all in Berlin before the pandemic started. And I really wanted to show to the community that it was basically possible as a woman to arrive at this position. And it was just like really empowering. Like we did a panel similar to this one, just in person. And there was someone was like a UX manager, another person like a principal role, a director role. So I definitely agree with all of you, and I see people that they're trying to reclaim the space, and it takes time. Like the thing that I really believe though is that it takes time. Like it's not something that can happen overnight, but if we are consistent and if we keep like doing it at a certain point, it must happen, right?
Yes, I completely agree. So talking about emotional work that Emanuela described before, what does it mean to be a woman working in UX? What do we have to do? Do we have to do more? Also, in a conversation that I had in the panel yesterday, and also one of the speakers on Sunday said that actually women, for sending the resume to companies, they feel that they have to fulfill at least 80% of the job description. Instead of men, like 50% is fine. Like they see that I can speak this, can speak English, I can do this. Yes, I'm fine. I'm gonna get the job. Like, but instead, for women in general is harder. Like, what does it mean then for you guys to be a woman working in UX?
This is a hard question. Everybody's pausing. So it's definitely interesting. My personal experience that it takes longer for women to gain the same professional respect when starting at a new company than for a man. When you are the one who, when you are at meetings or when you have to argue for your UX point of view, or just in general advertising UX or making sure that this perspective is taken seriously in the company. So you definitely have to step up for yourself, and just make sure that also they involve you in the conversation and they involve you in the decision making. And it's definitely something that I experienced over time, also because I don't know, when you're a woman, there is this perception that how they look at you, like how old you are, they don't look at your experience, they look at you first as a woman and then as a professional. At least that's what I've seen many times, and it should be the other way around, or it shouldn't be important actually at all. So it's definitely not easy, and I think one of the reasons why we wanted to start Ladies That UX, to have a community where you can talk about these experiences and talk about it, how you can handle it, especially when you have a conflict with a colleague because of this kind of gender questions, then it's really empowering to have women around you say, yeah, I have the same, and I could actually talk to this person, or I have a great article, or there is like, we have a role of educating a little bit at the company about this, like making people aware that this is, you have to be sensitive and empathetic to everyone in the company, no matter of any background or any gender. It's not just about women. It's like, just if you have a diverse group, then you have to be sensitive about everyone and not look at them as, I don't know, you are a woman, so I'm not going to listen to you. I'm being extreme right now, but this can happen easily. It's definitely changing, but I also had some experiences. I don't know what you said, Luana, about in tech in general, it can happen that there are, especially developers are mainly men. So if you're a designer alone, maybe. It happened to me. I worked for a big company and I had my own bathroom because there was no other woman on that floor. They even put my name on it. So it was sometimes really overwhelming to stand up for myself and present my work and be always confident, because that's what it takes.
I can recognize the educating part that Zsófia is mentioning, because, for example, at Kublu, we have like a group. It's called Women in Tech. I think it started like last year, and it was also to increase the inclusion and also make sure that, for example, the job offers are inclusive. That with our advertisement, we are also reaching women and not only men, etc., and getting more recognition. They also organize like a conscious bias workshop that now I think is compulsory for all team leads and managers to take. So I can definitely recognize that part, that I think is necessary for us to educate a little bit in the company that we are or in our surroundings. And I can also recognize the part of stepping up, because I think as women, we tend to be a bit more quiet, especially in meetings or whenever we need to defend something. Also because I think men in general are way more confident about themselves than women. So sometimes it can feel a bit overwhelming. And I think in the end, that's not beneficial for us, because that prevents us from getting better opportunities and getting our ideas across. And the same with the job posting. I can recognize that for myself, that I always try to match all the requirements. Otherwise, I don't apply. Well, you can find men that, they apply anyways. And sometimes they get the jobs even. So that's proof that we don't really need to match all the requirements to apply as well.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is definitely some extra that you tend to do, because, it's very easy to not feel enough or to feel way more insecure. And I consider myself like a extrovert somehow. Like, I think I work really well, especially like in small, medium group. Then when the group is too large, now I go back into my shell. But it was so important for me somehow learn to think of what is the worst scenario, like thinking of, okay, if I speak up in this meeting, what is the worst scenario? Are they going to fire me just for disagreeing? No, I don't think so. It's illegal in most countries. Are they going to, put me in a bad position? Well, maybe, but do I want to see in a company that doesn't, let me speak and express myself? So it's really, and again, somehow for me, it's kind of reconnect to the idea of emotional work. Like there is really a lot of mental effort, especially at the beginning, that you need to go through and reminded to yourself. I have to say that I feel really lucky, because I have a lot of my colleagues that are also like other women, or like people that identify themselves as women, where I can just talk to them and sometimes vent. Like if something goes wrong, I can just go to them and vent. That really helps. And having that kind of safe place. And I I think it's true. Like, I think the fact that too many people, especially, they tend to use not inclusive language when they write job post, or they do a lot of copy and paste from other job posting because that sounds cool, and you ended up having this really, really long description about something that is not really it's not really our position, right? Like, you don't do all those things, or at least you don't do that all the time. And it takes time to realize that. And it also takes time to realize that when you start to apply for a new job, no matter if you're a junior, senior, super senior, when people don't accept you, it's not that they're not accepting you as a person. They just probably have way too many resumes to check, and their HR department is a bit mad because they don't even answer you. So yeah, it takes, but I do believe that affect us more as women.
No, I'm the only one left. So from my point of view, I think being a UX designer in the tech industry that is dominated by male, it's challenging, but at the same time, I feel I have no regrets. I do have the imposter syndrome at times, but I have noticed through Ladies Day UX and other groups that are focused on diversity, and from my last job experience, how it's important to have a role model, especially if you have your colleagues and your boss as a role model. And we in our team, even before going to talk to stakeholders or to do an interview, we would sit on the chair and say, that's a confident posture, and that's how you should approach, and things like this. So I think diversity makes everything different, and it's something that it is happening. It won't happen over time, but it helps a lot to have diverse friends with diverse backgrounds, and sitting beside a UX designer and going to meet people from other departments, and I think the most interesting part is the more you network, the more you break bias. It's just I think it's with time, experience, that imposter syndrome will vanish, but at times it will knock at your door. And I think it doesn't only happen to women, it happens to men as well, but it happens more, it happen more to women. But I wouldn't look back, and I'm happy where I am, basically. Yeah.
Cool. And I have a question about junior professionals. What do you think a junior UX designer should know before starting working with UX? And how do they enter the job market?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult question as well, or at least very difficult to achieve. For me, it was very important to realize that communication is super important. When I was studying, or in my early years, I thought that, I will be designing all day long and that's it. But actually, you spend a lot of time talking to other people, and people that are not designers, actually, and also selling your ideas to them. So having a good communication, not only written, but also speaking, is very important in this field. And then I will always recommend to network, go to meetups, be present online, because in the end, meeting people in the field can help you a lot, not only to learn new skills, but also maybe to have job opportunities as well.
Yeah, I have maybe like an unconventional opinion here, but I think that you should be able to really articulate your thoughts and be able to explain the why. All the rest you can learn. Like you can learn I learn new terminology every day, right? The field is still evolving. So if you're like a really junior person, the most important thing will be like be open to receive feedback, because as a designer, that's really a huge part of our job. So receive feedback and give feedback back to others. That's a huge part of our job that is too often doesn't take any, like we don't take into consideration. So we'll say that will be the first thing that I will like teach to junior UX designer, and all the rest comes follow.
I think maybe this sounds trivial, but I think you have to be interested in people. I've seen this before, that sometimes beginners think like they like to sit in front of their computer and, draw wireframes, push pixels around based on a brief. And it's kind of like, that's about it. It's going to be implemented. And I think this is really not what UX is about. So if you're not interested to talk to your users, even if it's not your job because you're not the researcher, but you're not interested to take notes and watch them as much as possible, then I think what you're doing is not actually UX. So I actually seen this throughout my teaching, that sometimes this is a confusion. It sounds for us probably very trivial, but this fact that you have to be interested to talk to people and understand their problems, it's really important.
I think everybody summed up everything that I want to say. But one of the things that I think for junior designers, one really good quality is great communication skills that go beyond to communicate to your team, to do design critique, from to doing user interviews, and to making the right questions and to be clear and succinct at the same time. So I think communication skills, it's like a soft skills, it's number one, and then all other technical skills come after, because you can be really good in doing user research, but if you don't don't apply the right questions and don't communicate well, the results won't be that great either. And if you're going to do a presentation and you do a wonderful prototype, and you have to explain the interaction design and why you took that route, and if you don't know how to communicate that to the team, that won't work either. So communication skills comes first. Yeah, that's my take. And that's for experience, because I learned the hard way. So glad I'm way better now, but yes.
Can I add something, Mariana? Is that I think like communication skills is very important, and I want to just say that even if you're an introvert, there are different ways. Like communication skill doesn't mean that you need to be able, to talk to a big group. You can find different way to use your secret power as an introvert and move conversation, maybe one-to-one. So like find your way to also understand what is your way to communicate is important. I just don't want people to be scared when they hear communication. They're maybe thinking of someone extrovert, but you can also be a great communicator and still being an introvert.
Yeah, actually, it's sometimes good when you do interviews, and if you are really outgoing, it's really hard to stop yourself to ask leading questions or help the user to succeed, and you actually want them to see struggle. So if you are a really good listener and you can actually just observe, that can help many times to generate better insights. So
yeah, I completely agree, because I think even though like a junior person doesn't have like much experience in a certain field, um, this person can learn anyway about the tools, about methods, about the way that you do things related to design, like wireframes or UI, etc. But like these soft skills, like receiving feedback and not taking personally, or also communicating, I think also it's very, very important that people should have, not only juniors, but all levels. Now going to not like talking about COVID-19, since we are all at home. Here in Milan, we are almost in lockdown. Let's see how it goes tomorrow. We are going to receive the news from the Prime Minister. Let's see. But anyway, like since this is a remote edition, also I would like to know what has changed for you guys about jobs. Also, if you want to share about Ladies That UX events, about the tools, research, interviews with users. What did it affect your work somehow? And what's your point of view on that? Not only
I think,
negative, but also positive. Just to add that.
well, at the beginning of the COVID, all my team was let go, so that affected the travel industry, and that was the main product that we're doing. So from the perspective of being working at home, the company was very flexible. So I switched to be self-employed. Now I'm moving to another job, but the switch of working remotely already existed for me from my last job. So that for me, even for me, there is no like adapting to this new remote world for me already existed. I used to go to the company only when we had like research to be done and stakeholders if we had to meet stakeholders. Other than that, we could work from home. So that was from the Ladies That UX perspective. We were concerned at the beginning because we had planned for the whole year to do the mentorship, and it was like 3 months and a half that you do the mentorship, and we were planning to do that in person. We got the venue and everything set up, and suddenly we're in full lockdown, and we had to adapt to new tools, and basically we used Zoom all like during the whole event and in all the events. Now, thanks to Mariana, I figure out how to use StreamYard, and we used that in our last event, and actually that was really really good. I have really good things to say about it. Really like it, and I think that will be the tool that we're going to be used from now on. And yes, for me, from the perspective of like working from home, it haven't changed much because from my previous job, we have like flexible working from home scheme, so it wasn't that hard. I think it's more now to adapt to what is coming after this. And for now, all the interviews that I have been doing are remotely, and the job is fully remote. So it's I think it will be that the new post-pandemic will be that more companies go to that route. And I was lucky that I was already in that boat. So for me, yeah, the adaptation part wasn't that hard.
For me, it was a big change because at Kublu we were working at the office always, like every day. And then suddenly one day we went home, and we never go back till March, I think, to the office. The office remained open, so it was optional if you wanted to go there, but it was not mandatory. So it was like a huge hassle to adapt to working from home, making like your own routine, especially how to separate work from your life, actually, because the commuting, I really hate commuting, but it actually helps to disconnect from work and set up that barrier that, hey, I'm not longer working now. Now it's a lot better for me because, of course, after so many months, I have my routine and I can organize myself, etc. But I think a lot of people struggle, especially the first 3 months. Also with the tools, of course, because we were not used to use any tool. And for example, we started using Miro a lot, especially for brainstorming or very creative sessions, to simulate a little bit the in-person creative sessions. And of course, for calls, we use Google Meet, so nothing really special. But yeah, it was a big adaptation.
Yeah, for me, honestly, the main difference was that before I used to go in the office, even if my team isn't there, and the one that I work with is in the Berlin office, just for meet people and honestly to get that sense of what's going on in the rest of the organization. Since February, end of February, I've been working from this room over here, sometimes in the living room, and it didn't change much. I have to admit that I'm probably working a bit like late, because before, if I was going to the office, having that hour, like it's not an hour, but like half an hour, 45 minutes to commute was kind of allow me to take a break. And I usually will have dinner and really rarely I will continue to work. Well, right now, because I don't have that hour is usually used for work. It meant that my day that was already a bit shifted into the evening shifted even more. The positive thing was that we switched also a lot of our research to be remote, of course. Like there were a lot of interesting things to learn because there's like unprecedented times, right? So we'll be using tools like usertesting.com, or even like recruiting people while using the product, or like people that use the product and then interview them through Zoom. And that was really great to be able to just do it and be part of the study that sometimes were like maybe happening as field research. So not everyone was able to join the field, the team on the field. But in this way, really somehow make it like easier for people to just join, even people that are not super common with, doing this kind of research.
For me, it was a quite exciting time, actually, when the pandemic started, because I just quit my job before, because I was moving and I wanted to switch anyway. And yeah, I was actually quite anxious at the beginning because I was worried that this was not a good time to quit. And I don't know, many people were worrying me that the job market is not going to be great. And I actually know a couple of people who are working, especially at agencies, who had struggles. And because they don't have, the clients are not spending money on this anymore, especially if you're working for service design or more research. But what I could see, because I was actually looking during the first wave in Europe, so April, May, that there were so many remote jobs postings, that much more than I've seen before, because many companies realize that they can just find talented people somewhere else. Everybody's at home anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I ended up applying to many jobs in different countries. The only important thing for me was that we should be approximately in the same time zone, because I worked for a US company before and also with India for a couple of years, and I just felt I don't want to do that again, but that's just a personal preference. And I actually ended up finding a job in Austria. But the other really extremely strange experience is that I haven't met almost any of my colleagues in person yet. I started in July, and I went to the office, but it was still kind of in the middle of the not going there and holidays. So I met like 1 or 2 people, and the rest of the team never in person. And I think I'm actually super grateful, because even though this is like this, it's working out very well. And I think we can work together well. And I never thought this could work out, that really I never met them in person. This is so important. So it can definitely work. In terms of research, I used to do research mostly remotely anyway. I really like a tool called Ping Pong. It's similar to usability or usertesting.com. So I mainly used them in the last 2 years. I had some plans to do some field research recently. That was really exciting, but we had to pause it now, unfortunately.
People who are watching us from YouTube, if you have any questions, feel free to ask on the comments, and then we are going to answer them. I have one last question. So, what advice would you give to someone interested in moving to Europe to work with UX?
Somehow, I don't know if it's true, but the advice that I will tell them is be ready to also be a bit your product person as well. I'm thinking, like, if you're coming from the US in particular, where roles are really well defined, I kind of think that in Europe there is still an opportunity to change that a bit, and really have that kind of more lead position, in terms of, like, we can sometimes reposition ourselves to be more the lead in a group where, I don't know, we're an engineer and a UX person, really help to shape that conversation more. Another advice would be to don't be worried to ask for a good salary. If you don't know what to ask, that's why we have a lot of Ladies That UX chapter around the world and in Europe that we can probably help you out and give you some insight. And I'm really curious to hear what the others have to say, actually.
I think regarding the language, if you move to a capital, you can be pretty sure that you will find a job in English. So it's very developed by now. I mean, maybe it's true for other bigger cities as well, but based on my experience, it's not just England who will where you can find a job that you can actually do in English, and many companies are very international. This is definitely a trend in tech, that if you move to a capital city, then you will find a lot of expats and a lot of jobs.
Yeah, the language is true. I think probably is in most countries you can speak English. Not sure about Spain though. I think it's a bit difficult there still, and most jobs are in Spanish. But yeah, probably in a very big international company, you can also find a job in English. And I would also advise to invest a lot of time in the portfolio on the visual design part, because there is a lot of competition in Europe and a lot of very good people. So I will really invest the time on a good portfolio as well.
Yeah, just adding to what Sabrina said, investing time to update your portfolio, and also you can start applying for jobs from your home country. You know, nowadays you can do your interviews from there, and you can even get job offers from there. You know, and look for countries that have a critical skills list that you can apply for jobs in tech, and that you can even get your visa from your home country, and the company can sponsor you to come, and be open to change. Be open to change your career path as well, because that happens many times, especially when immigrate to a new country and you realize that your career path that needs to be changed, and be open for that.
Yeah, amazing point of views. I agree. If you're Brazilian, be ready for the cold, for the winter, for the changing seasons. So we have a question here from Victoria. Do you have a career path in your company? How are the junior, senior, and other roles? How is your personal development seen and worked on?
I can go first. We do have a career path at Mozilla. We recently, actually, our UX director talked with the other UX director in the other organization, and they aligned the two career ladders to be sure that people that are senior or a junior in one of the two org are somehow like comparable. This will make even moving from one org to the other easier in the future, right? That maybe instead of looking for a new job externally, you may look for a new job internally. What I found really interesting, that wasn't really the case in any of the company that I worked before or with any of my clients back in Italy, was that the job they really like, we have different grades. So sure, you have somehow a name, like right now I'm a staff user experience designer, which is one level up to senior. But basically what defines you the most is that if you're like a P1, a P2, a P3. So that's what kind of help you move your career. What I found super helpful was that we have a clear description of all what are the things that are expected from a certain level, not just from a deliverable perspective, but also from the impact that you may have on your team, of your company, on the external world as well. So I found that to be really a great tool, that I was able at a certain point to say, like, I want to work because I think I'm already somehow checking some of those boxes. I feel that I'm doing already some of that job as a staff designer. I want to see if I can work toward that. So I was able to have a conversation with my manager and just, we together work in that direction. And honestly, it was really rewarding for me. So if you're in a management position or a leadership position, I will definitely recommend you to create that kind of path for your employees, because you can really empower them. And we do have a personal development budget. And when you take a day for doing the personal development budget, I know, like a conference, you don't need to take day off, which I think it's particularly important. Maybe not as much as Europe, but in the rest of the world honestly, not even in Europe. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to generalize. I think it's important that you can just take day for go there and learning. And if you don't have a manager that supports your personal development, go to Latitude and work on your portfolio and look for a new job, because it's so important. And you are the only person in charge of your career. Like, don't let others influence where you can go. Like, you're the one who decide.
Yeah, at Coolblue, we also have a career path. You can go from junior to senior, so it's actually 3 levels. And then you can also become a team lead. That's very recent, but right now there is a possibility there. We have to make like a development plan every 6 months. So you will get a review from your manager with feedback and the points that you need to improve. And then based on that, you create some goals that you want to work towards. And based on that, then you can receive a promotion or not. We also have like some personal budget as well for maybe courses or conferences, which I think is also very important that companies support that, especially because the courses and conferences are very expensive. and they get benefit from it, of course, because we learn new things and then we apply it on the job. And then, yeah, I agree with Emanuela that you are in charge of your career, so you should be very clear with your manager where you want to work and where you want to go towards. And then, of course, your manager should support you on that.
So right now, we don't have such a system at the company where I work for. It's a small company, but I used to have this at my previous jobs. And I think it's important, even if you don't want to stay at the company or if you're about to switch, to actually pursue these steps, because then you can put it on your CV, and these are universal everywhere. So you can have the junior title or associate or something like this, and then senior or team lead. And when I look at a CV, for example, for hiring, and I see someone working somewhere for 12 years, not changing, or like going forward in their career, then it's a little bit strange, or maybe not strange, but I would be interested why is that, or maybe they don't have such a system at the company. But even if there is no such system, you can look up some general patterns, like what happens after 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, and then ask your manager, especially if it's a small company. You can say, hey, I think my qualification is like a senior, and I would like to have this on my CV because you earned it. And then you should really fight for it or propose to introduce such system, because it definitely helps you even like finding a new job.
Amazing. So I don't see any more questions. I would like to thank you guys for being here, for joining me in this conversation. I hope everyone learned a lot by how different UX design roles, professionals, they work in different cities, different countries. And yeah, that's it, I think. Do you guys want to add anything else?
Just thanks for having us. It was a really great conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much. Thanks for everyone who was watching us as well.
Thank you. Also, I will take advantage of this moment to say, if you're a woman and also a UX designer, not necessarily, but if you want to open a new chapter in your city in Europe, please find me on LinkedIn. My name is here. Find me there. And then if you're interested in opening a chapter, I will be there to help you on this path. And it will be very, very nice. Thanks to Ladies.ux. I had the chance of being here, like the opportunity of being here, getting to know these amazing women. And thank you very much for being here. Now, in 1 hour, 63 minutes, we're going to have another talk by Vanessa Pedra. She's one of the chapter leaders of São Paulo. And her presentation will be about design as influencer in the human behavior, but it's going to be in Portuguese. So we're going to have subtitles later. So stay tuned for the other days. Today was the third day of TalkUX. We have still 2 more to go. And I'm really happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.